You know that feeling when you set a really firm boundary with someone?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and you're totally convinced you're doing the healthy, self-protective thing.
Right.
But then you realize later that you haven't actually built a fortress to protect yourself. You've just built a really lonely prison.
It's a harsh realization.
It really is. And today, we're going to look at that exact psychological trap. Now, if you're watching this on the Simplified Summary YouTube channel, first of all, welcome. We humbly ask that you hit that subscribe button, drop a like on the video, and please share your valuable comments down below to support the content.
Yes, please do. It really helps the deep dives reach more people.
Definitely. Because today's deep dive is something special. Since you're already well-versed in the heavy hitters of classic Indian literature, you know Munshi Premchand.
The undisputed master of rural realism.
Exactly. But today, we're focusing exclusively on a masterpiece from his Mansarovar collection. It's a story called Alagyozsa.
Which roughly translates to separation or division, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we aren't just here to give you a basic plot recap. Our mission today is to pull apart the raw, deeply uncomfortable truths that Premchand exposes about the cost of pride, the economics of family, and how our modern obsession with fairness might actually be destroying the relationships that keep us afloat.
It is such a brilliant piece to dissect, especially for someone like you listening who appreciates the psychological underpinnings of these texts.
Yeah.
I mean, Premchand wrote this during a time of immense social transition in India. And he uses this setting a rural agrarian household to explore a universal human conflict.
The tension between the collective good and individual ambition.
Exactly. And, we all know the classic fairy tale trope of the wicked stepmother.
Oh, yeah. Cinderella style.
Right. But Premchand takes that rigid archetype and systematically dismantles it. He basically forces you to confront the reality that cruelty and grace aren't inherent traits.
They're situational?
Highly situational.
Yeah.
They're often driven by economic terror and shifting power dynamics.
And that economic terror, I mean, it is so palpable right from the opening pages. We start with this kid, young Raghu.
Just a heartbreaking start.
Totally. He's only 10 years old when his mother dies, and his father, Bola Mahato, remarries a woman named Pana. Now, Pana is notoriously beautiful, but she is also intensely proud.
And she makes her presence known immediately.
Oh, she makes Raghu's life a living hell, literally immediately.
Yeah.
Instead of playing, this 10-year-old kid he's shoveling cow dung.
Hauling feed for heavy oxen.
Doing all this grueling domestic labor. And what's really chilling to me isn't just Pana's behavior, but Bola's complicity in it.
The father.
Right, the father completely abandons his son emotionally. He's just blinded by his infatuation with his new wife.
And, it's really tempting to look at that setup and just label Pana as purely evil and Bola as a fool.
Right.
But if we dig into the rural patriarchal structures of the time, and Premchand is very impartial in how he presents this, Pana's behavior, while undeniably cruel, is a brutal form of survivalism. Well, she's a second wife entering an already established household. Her beauty is essentially her only currency.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, and she uses it to consolidate power over Bola, because she needs to secure the future for her own inevitable children. To Pana, Raghu isn't just an annoying stepson.
He's a threat.
He represents a pre-existing claim on the family's incredibly limited resources. He's an economic threat, so she isolates him. And Raghu learns the harsh lesson that endurance is really his only option.
Endurance! Wow. But then the power dynamic violently shifts.
It turns completely upside down.
Fast forward 8 years, Bola unexpectedly dies. And suddenly, Pana is left completely vulnerable. She has 4 young children of her own, now Kedar, Kunu, Lakman, and Junia.
And Raghu is 18.
18, and legally the man of the house. You can almost feel Pana's panic bleeding through the page.
Oh, she's terrified.
Absolutely terrified.
Yeah.
Because logically, she assumes Raghu is going to exact his revenge. She fully expects him to bring in a wife, seize control of the property, and turn her and her kids into the exact same servants she forced him to be.
It's pure projection on her part.
Yeah. Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where Premchand introduces a profound psychological pivot. Raghu doesn't retaliate.
Not at all.
There's that incredible scene where Pana is frantically searching for her children, fearing the worst, right? And she finds them in Raghu's hut. And he isn't plotting anything. He's lovingly carving little toy sugarcane carts for his half-sibling.
Letting them ride on his back?
Yes, he's playing with them with absolute unfeigned joy. It completely shatters Pana's worldview.
She expected tyranny because she governed as a tyrant.
Exactly. And I have to say, looking at Raghu's reaction, it almost feels too good to be true. He's 18, he's been abused his whole life, and his response is to become a saint.
It seems extreme.
Right. He even plans to sell his own personal gold ring just to buy a cow so these kids, the children of his abuser, can have milk.
And when Pana realizes this,
She's overwhelmed by guilt. She offers her own necklace to fund the cow instead. And he gently turns her down, telling her she looks beautiful in it. I mean, is this just Premchand writing an impossibly perfect martyr? Or is there something deeper happening in Raghu's psyche?
it is definitely deeper than simple martyrdom. You really have to consider what Raghu has been starved of for those 8 years.
Affection.
Family, maternal affection, and belonging. By stepping up as the provider, he isn't just saving Pana's children. He is actively creating the loving family dynamic that was stolen from him when he was 10.
Wow.
It's a remarkably sophisticated de-escalation of generational trauma. He realizes that vengeance would only perpetuate the cycle of isolation. By offering radical grace, he completely disarms Pana.
He binds her to him through gratitude.
Exactly. Gratitude rather than fear, which, in a precarious agrarian society, is a much stronger foundation for survival.
That makes a lot of sense. He essentially buys peace and stability through his own endless self-sacrifice. And for 5 years, it actually works.
The family thrives.
He works the fields relentlessly. Pana respects him. The kids are growing up. You would think Raghu's emotional intelligence would secure peace forever. But peace built entirely on one person's constant martyrdom is basically a ticking time bomb.
And that bomb has a name.
Mulia.
Yeah.
The bomb goes off the second his wife, Mulia, steps into the household. Fast forward another 5 years, Raghu is 23.
And incredibly hardworking, fiercely loyal to Pana.
Right. And Pana actually insists that Raghu finally bring his wife, Mulia, to the house. Raghu is a bit hesitant because he knows she has a temper, but he complies.
And Mulia's arrival is the true catalyst for the core conflict of the story.
Mulia is stunning.
Mhm.
Raghu is instantly captivated by her, but she arrives with deep, deep resentment.
She's not a passive participant in this family dynamic at all.
No. I actually find Mulia to be the most compelling character in the whole story because I really struggle to condemn her.
Her perspective is very grounded.
Yeah, she walks into this house and sees her young, strong husband working like an absolute slave. He's doing the labor of 3 men. Meanwhile, Pana is sitting comfortably, and Pana's children are roaming free, completely benefiting from Raghu's backbreaking labor.
And Mulia looks at this setup and basically says, absolutely not.
Literally, she refuses to do the household chores. She refuses to cook. There's that one point where she even lets Pana's kids go hungry until Pana herself is forced to step up and cook while crying. Mulia draws a massive, aggressive line in the sand.
What's fascinating here is that Mulia isn't purely a villain. Your reaction to her is exactly what Premchand intended.
She has a point.
She does.
Huh.
Her grievance is fiercely rational on a micro level.
Right.
If you look at the joint family as a corporation, Mulia sees that her husband is putting in 80% of the labor, but only receiving a fraction of the equity.
She feels exploited.
She feels her husband is being exploited. She is a modernizing force demanding fairness. She wants a nuclear family where her husband's labor directly benefits their own future, not his step-siblings.
Right.
But where Mulia miscalculates is in her failure to understand the macro environment. In early 20th century rural India, cutting yourself off from the collective isn't just setting a boundary.
It's economic suicide.
Precisely. The joint family wasn't just a cultural preference. It was an economic fortress designed to absorb the shocks of disease, drought, and poverty.
It's such a perfect parallel to how we talk about relationships today, though. We are constantly told to set boundaries, right? Audit our relationships for fairness, cut off toxic dynamics.
And Mulia is essentially trying to establish those modern boundaries.
She wants independence. But the tension just boils over until we hit the festival of Dussehra, the climax of the household tension.
A very public festival, too.
Exactly. The whole village is celebrating. Raghu goes to Mulia, who now controls the household finances, by the way, and he asks for just a few pennies so his little half-brothers can go to the fair.
Such a tiny request.
Right. But Mulia flatly refuses. She throws the keys into the courtyard, locks herself in her room, and goes on a hunger strike.
The hunger strike is the ultimate nuclear option in this context.
Yeah, she's not just throwing a tantrum.
No, she is forcing a definitive choice between the traditional collective family and her modern nuclear marriage. Her explicit demand is Alagyozsa.
The formal, physical division of the household.
Yeah.
And Raghu's reaction to this demand is just devastating.
He's heartbroken.
He literally begs her to stop. He tells her that the day the house is divided, his heart will break in two. He raised those kids. He loves them. He cannot bear to be separated from them.
But Mulia won't budge.
She refuses. And this brings up an element of the story that feels incredibly relevant today. The role of external validation.
Yes. The village women.
Mulia didn't come up with this hardline stance in a vacuum. She's been going to the village well, and the other women have been in her ear.
The village well functions essentially as this social media algorithm of their day.
Oh, that's a great way to put it, an echo chamber.
Yeah, exactly. These other women validate her anger. They tell her she is absolutely right to demand her fair share. They feed her worst anxieties, whispering that once those stepbrothers grow up, they will take over the land and kick her and Raghu to the curb.
Wow.
Premchand is pointing out how external societal pressures and the toxic validation of gossip often force internal family fractures that might otherwise be resolved through compromise. Mulia is radicalized by an audience that has absolutely no stake in her actual survival.
It's so frustrating to watch because you can see the train wreck happening in real time.
It won't end well.
Right. And seeing that Mulia will literally starve herself to death to get her way, Pana finally steps in, and again, Pana surprises us.
She doesn't fight the division.
No! Seeing no other way to keep the peace, she tells Raghu to go ahead and separate. She expresses deep, genuine gratitude for how he saved her family and promises she will always be there for him.
A very graceful exit.
So the Alagyozsa happens, and it's not just a legal document. They build a literal physical wall right down the middle of the courtyard.
They divide the cattle. They divide the farming plot.
The family is physically severed.
It is the physical manifestation of pride. Both Mulia and Raghu get what they technically ask for. Mulia gets her independence and a mathematically fair division of assets. Raghu keeps his marriage intact.
But the reality of that division.
It's a brutal lesson in the law of unintended consequences.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the fallout is just brutal. Raghu, now isolated, has to maintain an independent farm.
Just him.
Just him. He and Mulia eventually have 2 kids of their own. Raghu is trying to do the work of an entire collective family all by himself.
He becomes weak.
He works himself to the bone. His body just gives out. He contracts a severe fever, likely tuberculosis given the era and the exhaustion, and he dies.
It's incredibly tragic.
The man who sacrificed everything for everyone else literally works himself into the grave to maintain this artificial boundary.
And with his death, the absolute fragility of Mulia's nuclear family is exposed. She wanted a fortress against exploitation, but her rigid stubbornness built a prison.
Yeah.
She is now a young widow in a patriarchal agrarian society. She has 2 fatherless children, a farm that is impossible for one person to manage, and absolutely no safety net. She alienated the only people in the world, Pana and the stepbrothers, who truly cared for her husband.
The psychological toll on Mulia is agonizing to read, and the village's reaction is sickening, but honestly entirely predictable.
The exact same women at the well.
The exact same women. The ones who cheered her on, who told her to demand separation, they now turn around and mock her. They gossip that God punished her pride.
She is entirely abandoned.
There is this incredibly stark scene where Mulia is out in her divided fields trying to thresh the grain all by herself. It's grueling, heavy labor. Her baby is lying in the dust, crying.
She's exhausted, terrified.
And the crushing realization hits her. She engineered her own destruction. She got exactly what she demanded, and it cost her everything.
It's a masterclass in tragic irony from Premchand. He forces the reader to acknowledge that when we prioritize a rigid, transactional sense of fairness over compassion and community, we strip away the very buffer that protects us from life's inevitable tragedies.
Yeah.
Mulia thought she was protecting her assets, but she forgot that in human relationships, grace and mutual obligation are the most valuable assets you can possess.
But just as the story reaches its absolute darkest point, grace makes a return. And it comes from the person you'd least expect.
Kedar.
Kedar. Raghu's oldest stepbrother, the little boy Raghu used to make those sugarcane carts for. He's now a strong young man. He sees Mulia struggling out in the fields alone.
And he remembers?
He remembers. He remembered that when he and his siblings were facing starvation, Raghu stepped up. So Kedar mirrors that exact grace. Without a word, he walks onto Mulia's side of the divided land and begins working her fields to support her and her children.
It is a beautiful, full-circle moment. The cycle of resentment was broken by Raghu years ago, and now the dividends of that grace are paying out. Kedar is repaying his brother's love.
And Pana steps up too, right?
Yes, Pana also begins crossing over to help Mulia with the children and the home. The physical wall in the courtyard remains, but the emotional wall is painstakingly dismantled through quiet, consistent acts of service.
So we jump forward another 5 years. The families operate almost as one unit again emotionally. Kedar is now the head of the entire estate, working the land, while Mulia essentially manages the combined household.
Healing the rift.
Exactly. Kedar's younger brothers have all grown up and gotten married, but Kedar absolutely refuses to take a wife. He flat out rejects every proposal.
He is deeply traumatized.
He tells Pana that if he brings a new outside wife into the house, she will just demand another Alagyozsa, the family will fracture again, and the stress will kill him exactly like it killed Raghu.
His fear is profoundly logical. He watched a demand for independence literally work his beloved brother to death.
Right.
For Kedar, marriage doesn't represent love or companionship. It represents the introduction of a hostile force that will dismantle the family trust. He prefers a life of lonely duty over the risk of repeating that specific trauma.
But Pana knows he can't live like a monk forever. She goes over to Mulia and explains that Kedar needs to settle down. Mulia, who now feels an immense debt of gratitude to Kedar for saving her family, eagerly offers to travel to a neighboring village to play matchmaker.
She wants to help him.
She does. She offers to persuade a girl to marry him. And that is when Pana drops a complete bombshell. She looks right at Mulia and tells her that the woman Kedar wants to marry is Mulia herself.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this ending is so much more than just a neat happy bow on a dramatic story. You have to contextualize the era Premchand is writing about.
The cultural significance.
Exactly. In rural, traditional Hindu communities in the early 20th century, widow remarriage was a massive, deeply ingrained taboo. Widows were expected to be socially invisible.
Wearing plain white clothes, eating restricted diets.
Mourning until they died. For Premchand to write an ending where a young, hardworking man explicitly chooses to marry his brother's widow is an incredibly radical, deeply humanistic statement.
It really is a triumph. Mulia is completely shocked, but the pieces fall into place. Kedar hasn't just been working out of duty, he has loved and respected her all this time.
He honors his brother in the most profound way possible, not by treating Mulia as a charity case, but by offering her a genuine, equal partnership.
And Mulia, who had lost her youth, her husband, and her pride to the bitter reality of separation, has her happiness fully restored in this incredible act of forgiveness.
It is Premchand's ultimate thesis on human morality.
Yeah.
He's suggesting that true righteousness isn't found in rigidly adhering to societal rules, like the taboo against widow remarriage, or in aggressively enforcing boundaries, like Mulia's demand for separation.
Right, it's about healing.
True morality is found in pragmatic, compassionate solutions that actually heal broken people. Kedar and Mulia's union stitches the two halves of the family back together permanently. The physical wall is finally irrelevant.
It's an ending that really forces you to take a hard look in the mirror. You know, we spend so much of our modern lives drawing lines, building walls, and calculating exactly what is fair in our relationships.
Constantly keeping score.
Yeah. We are so terrified of being taken advantage of that we risk isolating ourselves completely. Alagyozsa isn't just a snapshot of agrarian Indian history. It's a warning about the limits of independence.
Absolutely.
When the storm hits, whether that's a literal fever or just the inevitable crises of life, fairness won't keep you warm. The collective grace of the people you haven't pushed away is all you really have. So to everyone listening, think about the walls you're building. And before we go, just a quick reminder for our YouTube listeners, if you found value in this simplified summary deep dive, please subscribe, leave a like, and drop a comment with your thoughts on Mulia's choice.
We'd love to read them. And I think the most lingering question comes from Kedar's initial refusal to marry.
Oh, yeah.
He almost denied himself a future because he was so terrified that history would repeat itself. It makes you wonder how many of our own major life choices are actually just trauma responses, secretly driven by the fear of repeating the pain of our past.